Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm the Witch of Wonderlust here on YouTube and on Instagram, and I've got book reviews for you today. Today I'm drinking this Vanilla Chai by David's Tea. The two books that we're going to go through are from the October Witches box, the subscription box. We have The Witch's Shield and The Witch's Coin, both written by Christopher Penczak. Penczak, I believe. I even looked it up to see if I was pronouncing his name correctly. So, the first one I'm going to run through is The Witch's Shield, all about protection magic and protecting yourself spiritually and using your spiritual craft to protect yourself. It's a pretty good intro. If I'm looking down, it's just because I'm looking at my notes. It's a really good intro book to protection magic and working with that in your craft. It covers all of the basics of what you're protecting from and why you would need protection. And something that he does cover that I thought was really interesting and helpful was that he covers why practitioners seem to need more protection than non-practitioners, because that's always been something that comes up fairly often when I tell people, oh, I'm wearing a protective charm, etc., and people who don't practice, they're like, well, I'm fine. I don't practice, why do you need that if I don't need that? And I don't even practice. I don't ever put up any protections. He goes through a lot of different reasonings and really good points on why practitioners need more protection. And I mean, it comes down to the fact that when you're practicing, you're kind of making waves, right? And you start to gain traction and gain the, the attention of entities and spirits. So you're gonna need more protection, and also other practitioners, and sometimes they don't always have the best intentions for you. Another thing that I really liked was that it's not fear-mongering. I think I have read a couple of protection books that make the world seem scary and make the occult world seem scary, and while there are definitely things that you need to be careful of and protect yourself from, and there are things that can be scary, it doesn't fear-monger the reader. It doesn't make it seem like it's this terrifying jump into the abyss. And I think that that's really important, especially as a book that's geared more towards people who are in the beginning stages or just past the beginning stages. It's also really in-depth, but it's an easy read. So that's always a hard line to walk when you're an author, of being really, really in-depth, but not losing your reader halfway through by repeating things or giving too many examples or too many metaphors for the same thing. It's quick and to the point and makes the point very prominent, but he dissects a lot of things throughout the book that I think are very important to dissect. One thing I really liked about this book was, keep in mind this book was published in 2004, and it comes with a CD in the back of all of the rituals, the protection. I think it's chants and the rituals, and he walks you through them. There might be some meditations. I haven't put it in anywhere because I don't think anybody owns a CD player anymore. Actually, my record player does have one, now that I'm looking at it, but unless your car has a CD player, I just really liked that. And then I thought it was kind of funny because I was looking at the CD and I was like, wow, that really dates it. And I was like, oh God, that dates me. Whatever. Anyway, so keeping in mind that this book is written in 2004, or written and published in 2004, he does mention smudging with white sage when he's referring to smoke cleansing. Just keep that in mind. It's in there. There are over 700 species of sage worldwide, so I don't think that you're really limited to just white sage. But that's just a note that I wrote down. Another thing that I just wanted to touch on was that he talks about some protective herbs, and some of which are poisonous. And there's no like note or star next to them. So there's a whole list here, right there, and on the other side, you probably can't see it, but things like belladonna and foxglove and mistletoe, nightshade, belladonna again, wolfsbane or monkshood, and yew can kill you. So that was just one little thing, if newer practitioners or people who just are unaware go out and acquire these herbs somewhere and use them and just so happen to touch them with their hands and then ingest it in some way, that can be detrimental. So that was just a little thing that I noticed. I always love a good source list, and this book has a lot of different sources, which is really nice because if you're reading a book and there are not sources to other books or other places at all, other teachers, it's not a good book. It's always good to have a whole list of other reading of where they got their information, because then you can expand easily. You don't have to finish this book and think, well, now where else am I going to read about protection magic? This is the only book I have. There's a whole list of recommendations, and I think that that's incredibly important. There are a lot of Wiccan ideas, and the law of three, the rule of three, is brought up constantly through this book. So just, again, keep that in mind. The practitioner is using a lot of heavy Wiccan influences, which is totally fine. You just have to understand that that's his faith, that's where he is coming from. That may bother some people, but it is what it is. Simple recipes for oils and sprays and infusions are listed all throughout the book for protection, which I really appreciate. They're not all complex ingredients. There are some that might be a little more difficult, like you'll have to order them online or something, which I personally like to use things that I can easily access. One, I'm lazy, and two, I think that it's good to be able to adapt and utilize the things that you have at hand. I'm not saying that if you order things online it's bad. I have guava leaves. You can't find guava leaves in Colorado, but I'm just saying that if you're relying on those things, that's when it's an issue. However, in this book there are common household herbs that you can use in these infusions and oils and sprays, which is nice. I liked that part. Okay, so overall, it's a good foundation book. If you want a really good protection magic book, this is a good place to start. It covers a lot. It really covers a lot. It covers everything from all the things that everybody wants to do, you know, such as the protection meditations, the rituals, the spells, the sprays, the infusions, all the hands-on witchy things. It covers those things, as well as ideas and morals, and it covers everything from those hands-on basic things to questions that you might have of protection magic or rituals, of the morals and the ideas that comes with that, is the simplest way I can put that. But it does cover a lot in a very small book. It's generally a very readable size, and it's easy to read too. It's not dense, which is really good for beginner books. Moving on to The Witch's Coin. There's a slight difference in the sizes here. This is The Witch's Coin. I love money magic. I like protection magic and I love money magic, if you couldn't tell from my money workings. But I have a very specific view on it and a very specific way that I go about it. And I'm not to say that, it's not to say that only my way is the right way, right? But I do have a way that I have found has worked for me the best, and I feel good about, and I feel strong in. So when I do read a lot of money magic books, I get more little tidbits and tips and ideas rather than seeing the whole book as like a whole of this is the best money magic book I've ever read. So this is also a good foundational book. It does cover a lot, because there is a lot, especially in morals and ideas in money magic, because there's a lot that goes into it. There could be multiple videos on that, and to be completely honest, it kind of exhausts me. However, maybe one day, but not anytime soon, sorry. This is a fantastic beginner's book, and I would say even intermediate, because it goes into, like I said, the morals and the ideas, and it covers a lot of things of why money magic might not work and why it does work and how you can best acclimate it to you and your working and your current life situation. No, I liked this book. So a huge chunk of this book, I want to argue almost half of this book, talks all about the ethics and perspective when it comes to money magic. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Once you read intro books, intro witchcraft books, you've kind of read them all. Once you read the first one, you can kind of skip a lot of what all the other ones say, because they all say generally the same things. However, It's always good to read them through, because sometimes there are little gems in there that you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Or there's different perspectives that can make something click for you. This is one of those books that covers a ton of things in perspective and ethics and morals that I know everybody's going to want to skip over and just go straight to the spells. And I know that we do that. Don't do that, because you're going to miss so much of the foundational and the important parts of actually doing these rituals and doing these spells. If you skip over this, you're cheating yourself. You're not helping yourself at all. Sit down, read the whole thing, and take the time to do the work that you don't want to do that will eventually benefit you in the future. Because he adds a lot of shadow work prompts, and money is something that is heavily based on perspective. I will not say that heavily based on, or only based on perspective, but there is a lot of how you see money and how you view money. So he adds a lot of shadow work prompts. And I suggest that you don't just read them and think about them. I suggest that you actually get out a notebook or your grimoire and write them down and answer them. And it's not fun work. A lot of the craft is not fun work, but it will be beneficial to you and your future workings and will make your future workings stronger. So that's my TED Talk on that. I do, like I said, think it's a really good beginner/intermediate book, because it's not so beginner that it's super basic and boring to read if you kind of know all the basics already, but it's not so advanced that it's hard to grasp or difficult to wrap your head around. The last thing that I like about The Witch's Coin is that it is a mix of ceremonial and folk-based magic. So you can kind of be on one or the other sides, or maybe you find yourself in the middle, and it gives you options for each of those. Because sometimes, you know, I personally lean towards more of the folk magic tradition, but I do use ceremonial sometimes. And so it's good to be able to experiment and see what works best for you and what feels the best for you. But otherwise, this also has a lot of really good sources for further reading, which you know is a good win on my end. Those are the two books that we reviewed this month. I hope that you enjoyed. These are two of my favorite kinds of magic to do. I love protection magic and I love money magic. If you couldn't tell from my past videos, I thought that they were very good reads. They were easy to read. They were enjoyable to read, at least to me. And again, like I said, they do have a lot of Wiccan ideas integrated into them, but if somebody is writing from a Wiccan stance, then that's going to happen. And otherwise, they were really good. I got some really good thought-provoking chunks out of it and some good tips. And there are some infusions and a couple of, I guess, ideas of how to do the working layouts, I suppose, that I'm really interested in trying and experimenting with. So I'm looking forward to that. But that is all for this video. Thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Best of luck. Be kind to each other, and may your gods treat you as you've treated others.